the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AVWeek, episode 135, recorded Saturday, March 22nd, 2014. Make it sexy.
Ready.
AVWeek.
Performing scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AVWeek. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I'm your host. Happy Saturday to you. With us this week is Mr. Sean Robinson. Sean is the Vice President of Product Management at AMX. How are you, sir?
Doing fantastic.
Also with us is Bill Brown. Bill is the CEO of BD Brown Communications. How are you, brother?
I am doing great, sir.
Good.
How are you?
Excellent. Bill, for those of you watching, has the terrible towel behind him, which, you know what? That's a Steeler thing, by the way.
Yep.
And the Steelers, I'm still smarting from the Steelers not being able to finish off the Green Bay Packers a few years ago. So, just saying. I'm an angry Bears fan. So, you know, I was a big Steelers fan there for one Super Bowl. So. This week we're going to talk about a number of people have contests coming out because Infocom is coming out and they kind of do all that. We're going to tell you about one that you can sign up for as integrators, not just manufacturers, and we'll encourage you to vote for AMX and a couple of the handful of ones that the magazines have coming out. There have been an acquisition this week, and we'll talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about industrial design and how to make things pretty. Since we have Sean on, and Sean, AMX, I said this before, I'll say it again, they make the sexiest touch panel in the history of control. So
thank you, sir.
Absolutely. But first we're going to talk about our friends over at Infocom. They announced this week that they are starting to go on the road. Not that they haven't been before, let me clarify that. They're doing shows on the road, actual Infocom, regional trade shows, which is kind of interesting. They've got the one coming up in Philly in October. They also have another one coming up in San Jose early in 2015, in March actually in 2015. If they go well, one would assume that, hey, you know, they might start doing them at other places. They maybe, you've got one in Philly, you've got one in San Jose. Maybe start somewhere in the middle of America, maybe Dallas for folks like Sean, maybe Chicago. I wouldn't expect them to come to St. Louis because that would just be entirely too easy for me. And you know what, let's be honest, St. Louis is like market 25 or 30 now. But Chicago would make sense. So, Sean, we're going to kick it off with you. First of all, a blatant straight-up question, is AMX going to be involved in this? And then, you know, is this a good idea or a bad idea?
Yes, we will be involved in it, and we think it's a fantastic idea. With GovCom kind of going away, I think it's very important that Infocom do this to kind of reach out to those end users and integrators that can't make the trip to Vegas this year. We've been doing this for about 10 years, having technology showcases in the July-August timeframes in Philadelphia and Boston to reach out to those that can't make it to the show. And Infocom has a tremendous focus here on the end customer, which I think is very, very important for generating market awareness of our solutions, of our integrator solutions. So yeah, anything they can do to get out there and get closer to the customer, again, with a lot of companies, and especially the government that is shut down on travel budgets, I think it makes a lot of sense. And you will see AMX at that one in October.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because you've mentioned the end customer, and we can split hairs here to decide
Sure.
who the end customer is. Because my previous life as a technology manager, a lot of manufacturers would have considered a technology manager the end customer. You talk to some integrators, and they're like, no, those are the middlemen and women. The end customer really is the person touching the technology, touching and using it on a daily basis. So who do you guys as AMX, who do you think is the end customer?
So the way we define the end customer is the person who makes the purchasing decision, which is typically going to be the AV technology manager, and of course we're seeing more and more the IT director or IT manager. That's what we refer to as the end customer. The end user actually falls into two places. The end user in an education, for example, education vertical, would be that instructor, right? The person actually using the room, using the technology. But there's another user also, and it is that AV technology manager or that IT manager in supporting the equipment, right? There's a user experience there too. So there's actually two users that we look at inside of the end customer's facility, the person using the technology and the person who's managing and supporting the technology.
Okay, and that's a good definition there, because that's been one interesting conversation that I've personally had with manufacturers over the last few years is that interesting little definition, and honestly varies from company to company. It really does.
Right.
All right, Mr. Brown, you get to weigh in on this. Good idea or bad idea to do these regional trade shows?
Well, Tim, I don't know if you remember last year at InfoComm, I announced the opening of the Technology Center. And the main reason for the Technology Center is to give the InfoComms or the manufacturers access to the end user or the customer more on a regional basis. And so I think this is a great idea. I think the one thing that they should look at is being in maybe the second tier type of a city or environment that is growing, mainly because when they would travel around before with the round tables and the power and AV, they were mainly in bigger cities, and people would have to go a couple hours or so to get there. And I think you're missing what's going on in some markets like the RTP area or the Piedmont Triad area where I am in North Carolina, or in some cases a Richmond area or some parts of outside of Atlanta. Where you can get into Tennessee and South Carolina. So I think if they really want to get in touch with the multiple level of end users, as Sean mentioned, this is a great way to do it, and it doesn't take away from the Super Bowl of technology, which the big show at the end of the year.
Yeah. Okay. So from your perspective, how far away do you think, or what's the distance limitation, I guess, for someone driving or coming in relatively quickly? Are we looking at, no more than an hour's drive? Are we looking at 2 hours drive? Is 3 hours drive fine?
I think no more than an hour and a half. In your past life as a technology director, if you could leave in a half day, if they would let you off campus or something, and attend a show for a half day or something, and then stay overnight, and then do the other half day and go back to all the fires that you left, type of environment, I think that is something where you would get buy-in from not just the director, but maybe some people on their staff, or maybe an administrator. Type of environment. So I think those are the about an hour and a half would kind of justify being out of the office for that period of time.
And I think you've hit on something there with the staff issue. You've got a number of people around the country who cannot get away either in June, because that's a busy time. It's a run up to summer installs, or there's simply no budget, or the person is so far down the line, their director or their director's director is going to InfoComm, but they could benefit just as much by going to some of the training and meeting with the manufacturers and stuff like that, and building those relations or building on the relationships they already have. They probably haven't been to InfoComm in 3 or 4 or 5 years once the downturn hit. And having something regionally like this will help those folks out. It'll help them in their personal development and their professional development as well. So.
Right, and I think the last thing before we move on with that, I think in some cases we know competitors, but we don't know our peers. Yeah. And I think more on the regional side of it, if if it's create, sometimes I would go to Infocom and see people that are right down the street from me, and that's the only time I would see them. Yeah. And so the more that you create that environment where you can create a community or look for some collaboration opportunities with some people right around the corner, I think that could help too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, from our friend Julie Jacobson at CE Pro, let's talk about industrial design. I love Julie. So here's the question. Her general question: has Nest taught us nothing? It seems most consumers buy Nest thermostats because they look cool. They're not because they're smart or anything else. So why then do we keep making ugly CE products? Julie is the editor-at-large of CE Pro. But I'm going to take that a step further and kick it to the pro arena. Bill, why do we keep making ugly professional AV products?
Well, let's see. Let's be politically correct here.
Oh, don't be politically correct.
Men are making it.
Oh, there we go.
Men are making it. I tried to do a presentation and said, we want to design technology that's, strong enough for a man but made for a woman, type of thing. And we don't.
Because that's not sexist at all, Bill.
Because this is my last time on the show, I guess right? But no, I think really some of those aesthetics that us geeks really don't care about mine. We like all the guts, to it, and outside of the sexy AMX, we just accept everything else.
Okay, that's and you know what? That's a good transition because I was talking with Sean off the air. I've said this before. I will say it again. The Madero is the sexiest touch panel in the industry. It really is. And then you get into some of the other equipment. Now, okay, so you've got the Innova, right, which is an all-in-one box. Right. I don't expect that to be sexy, right? I don't expect that to be, oh my goodness. But the user interface, I guess, is where we're going here, Sean.
Exactly.
Why can't, or why, I guess, same question, why do some manufacturers keep making things that aren't exactly aesthetically pleasing to the eye?
That's a fantastic question, Tim. And really, it really comes down to the commitment and what you're passionate about when you're creating a product. And it's interesting. Julie wrote this article after she got back from ISE, right? When she was over there looking at European design, which is typically very modern, and the Europeans take that very seriously. You see a lot of German companies and things like that over there have some beautiful design. It's something that it's hard to do. It takes extra effort, and you have to make that decision. Does the customer really value it? A lot of people in the AV technology industry don't believe people value it because a lot of people get jazzed about 4K, 8K, whatever the next K is. At AMX, we think differently about that. We still get jazzed about the 4Ks and all that kind of stuff, but we have a very deep passion for industrial design, and this comes all the way down from our CEO. This goes back into the commitment piece. Our CEO, Rashid Scaff, is extremely passionate about it, and especially anything that the user can see or touch, meaning that anything that sits out on the table, if it's the touch panel, that is the reason we got into the connectivity solution, the Hydroport. There's plenty of great solutions on the market. They're all just horribly ugly. And we said we can apply our core competency here. These connectivity solutions are sitting right next to this work of art that we put so much effort, blood, sweat, and tears into creating from an industrial design perspective, and that's what drove us into the connectivity business. And our CEO just believes deeply that whatever we deliver to our customer should not only work well and be extremely reliable, but also be very elegant and lift the aesthetics of the room. And also, too, when you think about Rashid Scaff, our CEO, is a European guy, right? His father's Lebanese, his mother's Swedish. He's been in the States for over 20 years, but he brought a lot of that with him. It was in his just his DNA. And I can tell you, it's the reason not everybody does it. It is hard. It is really hard. If you're behind the scenes when we're making these things, I can tell you stories, but I mean, there are phone models that go in and out of his office, and there are meetings that go on for hours and hours and hours. There are tons and tons of different revisions. There's so much friction between the electrical engineer and the industrial designer, because the electrical engineer says, hey, I can only fit the electronics into this, and the industrial designer says, no, I've got to have this, and it just goes back and forth. And so it just takes a tremendous amount of commitment. But if you have it being driven all the way down from your CEO, it's going to happen. And when you deliver it, it's a fantastic thing. And again, we're not making consumer products that are going to be gone here in a year. This type of technology is installed in classrooms and conference rooms. It's going to be for 7 years. And so when you're doing that industrial design, it can't just look great today. It's got to look great for 7 years to come. And so and we're going to live with it for that long too. That's the life cycles of the products we're shipping, and we want to be proud of it, and we want our customers to really, really be proud to have these things and show these things off when they're bringing people into their spaces.
Okay, let me ask you this really quick, because you hit on something. How then do you design for 7 years? Because every fall, and I'm not a fashionista, but I understand that there are fashion shows at least once a year where totally different fashions come out and what have you, and every year there's going to be a new iPhone, and every year or so there's going to be a new Android phone. How do you guys? I mean, what's the thought process when you design for 7 years out?
It's very simple. We actually have this crystal ball that we have under our desk. We pull it out, and we. That's what our.
Can you share that, please?
Yeah, but no, it's actually our industrial designers follow a lot of the trends. So you're not just looking at what's hot today, but you're looking at how things are trending, right? Okay. And the other key thing is you focus on simplicity. We weren't always good at this. I don't know if you guys remember back in the day, late 90s, we had a product called the Viewpoint, which is one of the first wireless panels. We had these things called wow colors, where we created like a neon version, a neon yellow version, a neon green version. That was a fad. That only lasted a year, right? This is pre-Rashid. But so now when we go in, like the Maduro X is an excellent example, simplicity. And to make something simple is extremely hard. The more simple you make it, the more hard it is, because you have to use a tremendous amount of restraint in the design and just make something look extremely simplistic and yet modern at the same time. And again, we don't know exactly what the future is going to be, but if we focus on modern design, and again, we watched all the same movies everybody else does. We watch Minority Report, we watch Iron Man 2. Yeah. We go, that's cool looking. That's what the future should look like. We combine that with the trends that our industrial designers are following in the design world, and that's how we mesh those things together to create those beautiful looks.
Yeah, that's a perfectly good answer. I like that. Yep. I like the crystal ball better, but you know.
I really wish we had one. I really do.
You and me both. All right, let's move on to some actual geeky stuff. Not that design's not geeky, but Control 4 has a new 8x8 HDMI matrix switcher, which is HD-Base-T certified. Yay, good for Control 4. This is from our friends over at Commercial Integrator. Not that that's not cool, and I kind of tongue-in-cheek. But I wanted to start the conversation, use this to start a conversation about certification and membership in general. And Sean, we're going to kick it off with you because you guys are members of the HD-Base-T Alliance. How important is it for your products to be certified? I mean, is it one of these things where it's a feather in your cap and it's something you can take to the purchasing, the decision makers, or is it critical to make sure that your systems are certified so they work with other HD-Base-T devices?
Sure. It depends on the corporate strategy for each company, right? So HD-Base-T is a fantastic technology. As you know, Tim, we utilize that in our DX Link transport solution. There's some companies that depend on other companies for the rest of the ecosystem. For instance, they might make, like Control 4 makes the 8x8, and they also have a receiver, but they're going to be relying on other type of transmitters to come in, and it makes a lot of sense for Control 4 to go through to the entire certification piece. Although we're members of the HD-Base-T Alliance, we're not we don't have any products currently certified because we have the complete ecosystem of products that we're delivering from the transmitter through the matrix switcher all the way through the receiver. And there's a lot of value add that we're doing in the receiver, such as scaling and things like that. So currently today, we are not focusing on, and again, this is a manufacturer standard. Often when there is, we really fall. As Tim, you made this comment several times. The great thing about standards is
there's so many to choose from.
So many of them. So we really personally, we really prefer industry standards, and when it has those 4 letters in front of it, like I and those 3 E's, those are our favorite kind, and we go through and become certified in those kind of areas, especially for wireless technologies. On a manufacturer standard, things are still kind of in flux. People are implementing it in different ways, and so right now when we're delivering our digital media solution, we do it as an ecosystem. Not to say that we're never going to go down that path. We have a great relationship with Valens. It's fantastic technology, and we're going to look at it for some other, some other solutions. But so yeah, I think it's a decision that every company makes based on the strategy, their go-to-market strategy.
Okay, you mentioned something, and you can tell me to butt out of this if you don't want to answer the question. Do you think, and I don't want to make this between HD-based-T and AVB, I've made that mistake before, but whether that's AVB, HD-based-T, or wireless video, do you think there's any of them that are currently kind of trying to make their way in the world here that will get IEEE certification to where it would make sense?
I think AVB is probably going to be the closest there because they're already, and which is really kind of a collection of several IEEE standards, because they're so tied into the network and the and network technology and switching technology. And when I say switching, I mean network switching. That's where all those IEEE standards are. So I think that one will go that way, and it already is. So whereas HD-based-T, it's not a packetized solution, as you know. It's more, they're using the category cable, but it's not over IP packets. So it'd be interesting to see. But with that being said, Valens is doing a great job getting out there with the consumer devices, Panasonic and other companies, and and moving forward with their manufacturer standard. So.
All right, Bill. Good for Control 4, but how important is it for these folks to get certified? Is it important for people who are the decision makers to say, hey, yeah, great, this is certified? Or like Sean said, you've got people like AMX who have end-to-end solutions. They don't necessarily have to worry about the certification.
Well, I think there's a couple of things happening here. We talked about the end user earlier in the broadcast, and I think the easier that it helps them to understand what equipment that is being in, how it's going to be used, how it can deliver on the solutions that they need is better. So that's where the certification helps, not just for the tech director or the person that is managing this, but their bosses that are purchasing all this to understand exactly what's going on. And I think as an industry we need to not be afraid of having a level playing field, and then find things unique about ourselves, each other, that are different and that are important to the customer, the end user type of thing. So the more that we go with standards, go with certifications, and really have a level of professionalism, so we're technology professionals, then there's that credibility, and we're doing things that create more solutions than problems.
I like that. All right, from our friends over at the AV Network, the K through 12 market, and I'm smiling because these are my people, the technology managers. I come from education, but Karen Mitchell wrote an interesting piece this week about this very vertical. One quote from it says, "A necessary component of success in this vertical is an understanding of the state of the market and how education technology is funded." Okay, I'm going to slightly get on a little soapbox here. Most education, when you get an RFP and it's from an education, you're most likely dealing with the budget, right? The general, at the place I used to work, we called it priority budget, right? Where everybody and their brother would throw in their lot and say, this is what I want this year, this is what I need. And they would dole it out. And then if you got a grant, which is one of the funding possibilities that Karen mentions, that was a totally separate thing, right? If you got a chunk of money for $20 or $30 or $40,000 to do something specific, then you're going to deal with somebody that you have a relationship with. But if you're trying to replace every projector in a 200 classroom campus, you're going to have to do an RFP because most state colleges, private's a little bit different, but most state colleges have a limit to what they can purchase without putting it out to bid, and different levels for each state. I think in the state of Illinois it's 25,000, at least it used to be. So there are definitely value. There's definitely value for integrators to develop relationships with folks in education. However, there always a however. Don't expect that relationship to get you every single job, right? Because there are going to come times when the bottom line is simply the bottom line. And you're going to go up against somebody who either A, has a better relationship with a manufacturer, no offense, Shaw, or they have a better pricing strategy with the manufacturer. Epson is a perfect example of this. They have a program for education called Brighter Futures. There is only one Brighter Futures dealer allowed in each market. Think about that for a second, right? In the city of St. Louis, there is one Brighter Futures dealer. There might be a dozen AV dealers, integrators in St. Louis. They may all sell Epsons, but there's only one integrator in St. Louis who can sell them at this considerably lower price. Personal opinion, I think that puts the rest of the people in St. Louis at a disadvantage, or Chicago, or LA, or New York, or wherever. I think it's a bad policy on Epson, but that's my own personal issue. So, Bill, we'll kick it off with you here. How do you develop that relationship? How do you develop this market, knowing that sometimes you might get burned, knowing that sometimes you may not get every deal, but you still go out there on a daily basis or a weekly basis trying to build these relationships with these folks in education?
I think the biggest challenge, because I was in a higher ed environment and learned a lot of working with how they worked with vendors and everything, is that I think they don't understand, vendors or integrators don't understand when that semester starts, it's like on until graduation. And there is really not that time to develop that relationship and to really understand, the pains or what's, where are some other needs, especially sometimes when, as you said, if a grant comes in or, there's initiative comes out and, money just appears from nowhere and you have to, make something happen. And so what I saw was a lot of integrators would, last year they got, the big deal of the year from this university. So they're like, we're in, all eggs in the basket, and now this is our place. And then the next year, you don't even get a call. And it was very frustrating to try to help them understand that, as long as you're available, as long as you are helping, and not just trying to make as much money as you can, you'll be in somebody's list that, hey, if something comes up, I'll go back to that. But if you just have this expectation that you are always going to be the one, the preferred, just placing orders, that's just not the environment that most of the higher eds that I've seen.
Okay. Sean, from a manufacturer standpoint, you guys have a little bit different angle, I guess, or relationship with these guys in education, these guys and gals in education, because you have education, market development people who go out and try to, develop relationships with these people. So when they do spec products, they spec AMX products for you guys. How do you do that? I mean, how do you? What is the outreach like? And is it cyclical? So is it like Bill said, once the semester starts, it's game on, and you're running honestly a marathon until graduation. How does that cycle work for you guys?
Yeah, so and it's interesting because up until about 4 years ago, we only really went after the higher ed market, but now we're doing both K through 12 through our SchoolView solution, and then and a higher ed like we've always done. And it's as far as the end user part of it, what end customer, we have a team, a higher education team that is regionalized, and they go out, as you know, Tim, and speak to our university customers directly. And then on the K through 12 side, it's another team that goes out and talks to the school districts, and very different buying processes, right? Different contracts, different bid processes. And like for instance, on the K through 12, we focus a lot on E-rate and all of those kind of things. So we have behind those people, we have product marketing people for each of those verticals that also focus on all those bid processes and all that information that's out there to help develop effective sales methodologies. But then we have people out on the street going and working directly with the end customers. Now, with that being said, those end customers might sometimes work through a dealer. And so if they're going to a dealer, they're going to be dealing with one of our regional sales managers. And so there's a lot of coordination that goes on between our business development people who are working with the end customers and then and our RSMs who are working with the integrators to make that happen. And it is cyclical. Here in the States, of course, especially for K through 12, a tremendous amount of work is done over the summer, of course, when things are slower. But we also see an uptick in the December timeframe over the Christmas break when there's some refreshing done on the higher ed side. But typically on the primary education, K through 12, we're seeing a lot of that work being done over the summer. And so that means procurement is happening in the April-May timeframe. And so it's important as these business development people are out there that we're forecasting properly, because we'll see a spike in demand on those type of products in the April and May timeframe for summer installs.
Let me ask you, because you guys, just like a lot of people, you'll hold back some of your really cool stuff for Infocom. How does that affect that? If people are speccing and designing systems in March and April, but anybody worth their salt who's been in the industry for a while knows good and well that somewhere in the back of their head, somewhere in the back of Sean's mind right now, is a product or two that he's going to show us in Vegas that he can't say anything about to anybody. But maybe somebody calls up and says, "Hey, I'm looking for this," and one of your business development, market development people goes, "I know exactly what can solve that, and I can't say anything."
Exactly, and yeah. So what we'll do, if we have anything specifically targeted for education, the goal is to announce that at ISE in February, and because ISE again it's equal in size to Infocom for us now, because we do so much business internationally. So we will make our education announcement at ISE. So we're shipping in May. If we have any announcements being made at Infocom in June, we're going to miss the majority of that buying cycle, because you're right, Tim. We won't ship it before we announce it, and we might catch a little bit of the tail end, but we weren't talking to people about that product, so it wasn't being spec'd or gone through the procurement process. So we really miss the summer if we don't announce it at ISE.
That's very interesting. The fact that ISE has kind of developed into that. From a calendar standpoint. So
yep, it works out pretty well for that buying cycle. Now, with that being said, Australia's buying cycle is completely flipped, right? So for education, then over the wintertime, what we call wintertime, they call summertime. That's their. So we can still hit the Australian, which again is a large market for us, still hit their education cycle if we announce at Infocom. But again, when you compare it to the rest of the world, it's smaller. But so we can still catch that, but otherwise we're targeting ISE for any type of education-focused announcements.
For the States, yeah. That's kind of neat, yeah. All right, from our we mentioned a couple of contests. One is our friends over at Commercial Integrator Magazine. Let me see if I can bring this up here. You can enter the Commercial Integrator Best Awards. And this is not for Sean. This is for people like me. You can win best categories for audio, video, control automation, networking, and communications, dealer install aids, building enhancements, and things of that nature. So if you want more information on that, go to commercialintegrator.com. But if you are going to Infocom this year, both Rave Publications, ravepub.com, and SCN Magazine will have the best, the Reader's Choice and the Best of Infocom awards. So I don't know, Shauna, you guys, obviously you have products that you can put up there, but I don't know if Raves is pretty well open, because it's anybody can vote for anything. And SCN is similar in that same way. So is there anything that you guys would want to say, hey, vote for us?
Well, yeah. So again, these would be some unannounced, especially for commercial integrator, not the integrator awards, but the manufacturer awards. Yeah. Again, we love those. We did pretty well last year. We took home 4 of those bad boys from commercial integrator last year. DVX, DGX, RPM, and Madero X. So that was great. And let me just, I'm not making a plug here, and I'm not trying to brown nose because the awards are coming up, but Commercial Integrator is a great magazine. What I really like about their magazine is they do a lot of surveys of the market and the integrators. Fantastic feedback from manufacturers, right? When we're wanting to get a pulse on different markets and what the integrators are doing in different markets, and to help us, add that in with the other discussions that we have with the customers. So great magazine, great awards. So yeah, we do, and what we'll do is we'll enter in certain things that are going to be pre-announced. And again, we try to do this in a secret type of fashion. Sometimes we're allowed to, sometimes we're not. But things we announce at ISE that are just starting to ship, we can always go in and do that. But yeah, we think it's great. We take all those awards, we display them at the office. We bring them back to the engineers. It's really morale boosting for the engineers who spent 80 hours a week for a year to get those products to market. That they won an award. So it's fantastic. We really think very highly of them.
Yeah, I do too. And one of the neat ones that Rave has done in the last couple of years is best training, which is interesting, because it's not something that the engineers necessarily have anything to do with unless they're also an instructor. But it really comes down to, at least what I found is the training is where you really see the culture of the organization, right? How you treat those people coming in and spending their week with you really kind of shows what kind of culture you have. I've not had the opportunity yet to go down to AMX, but I've been to a number of other ones, and that award I'm always interested to see who the finalists are. So
exactly, it's not just about the product; it's about the people too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, gentlemen, that is it for this week. Bill Brown has been here. Bill is the CEO of BD Brown Communications. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully I'll come back.
Oh,
no more sexist remarks.
You'll come back. Where can people find you?
You can find me on bdbrown.com, at bdbrown.com on Twitter. I have a Facebook page, and you can email me at billb@bdbrown.com.
billb@bdbrown. All right. And last but not least, we have 2 guests this week. Sean Robinson, Vice President of Product Development at AMX. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Tim.
And where can people find you or more information about AMX?
AMX, social media-wise, AMX Talk is the only thing you have to remember there. AMX Talk, all one word. So that's our YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, everything. I'm on LinkedIn, Sean Robinson. That's with a U, so I spell it a little bit different than most people do. But yeah, so come and visit us, AMX Talk or AMX.com.
All right, very good. And I look forward to seeing both of you actually in Orlando. Good Lord, in Vegas.
In Vegas,
in June.
Yeah.
So I always forget that every other year. So my name is Tim Albright. Don't follow me, but go to the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv. AVNation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. The dynamic duo who does our AV social show, Kelly Perkins and AV Dawn, just posted a brand new one this week. So check that out. We'll have a new live coming down the pike. Ed Tech. Our education, actually, talking about education, our education-focused show will post a new one this week. So, yeah, go by the website. Oh, and our new app show. I almost forgot. Our new app show. The one thing I'll say about our app show, it is the best hair on the podcast in the history of the world.
Yes, it is.
Not today, but...
No, the AV app show. Not here, not us, not here.
Of course not.
No, it's hosted by Matt Scott and Phil Cordell, Hi-Fi. So, yeah, those two guys together have the best hair in the history of podcasting. So check that out if you would, please. AVNation.tv, AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. That's all the time we have for AV Week.